His story is not just one of suffering, but of perseverance, of questions that shake the heavens, and of a divine answer that humbles the mightiest heart. Man of great wealth, honor, and righteousness, yet in a single day, disaster struck, stripping him of his riches, his children, and even his health. Friends came to offer wisdom, yet their words only deepened his agony. His cries rose to the heavens unanswered, until God himself spoke from the whirlwind. There was a man in the land of Uz named Job. He was blameless and upright, fearing God and shunning evil. He was a man of great wealth, possessing vast herds of livestock, a large household, and many servants. His 7 sons and 3 daughters often held feasts together, and Job, concerned for their spiritual well-being, regularly offered sacrifices on their behalf, fearing they might have sinned in their hearts. One day, in the courts of heaven, the angels presented themselves before God, and among them was Satan. The Lord asked him, "From where have you come?" Satan replied, "From roaming the earth, going back and forth upon it." Then the Lord said, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is none like him on earth, blameless and upright, fearing God and shunning evil." Satan sneered, "Does Job fear God for nothing? Have you not placed a hedge around him and blessed everything he has? But stretch out your hand, take away all he owns, and surely he will curse you to your face." The Lord answered, "Very well, all that he has is in your hands, but do not lay a finger on the man himself." That day, disaster struck. A messenger came running to Job, breathless with terror. "Master, the oxen were plowing and the donkeys were grazing beside them when raiders attacked. They carried off the animals and killed all your servants. I alone escaped to tell you." Even as he finished speaking, another messenger arrived. "Fire from heaven has fallen. It consumed the sheep and the shepherds. I alone escaped to tell you." A third messenger rushed in. The Chaldeans formed 3 raiding parties. They seized the camels and put the servants to the sword. I alone have survived to bring you this news. Before Job could respond, yet another messenger entered. His face was pale, his hands trembling. "Master, your sons and daughters were feasting in your eldest son's house. A mighty wind came from the wilderness, struck the house, and it collapsed. None survived. I alone escaped to tell you." Job tore his robe, shaved his head, and fell to the ground. "The Lord gives, and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord in all this." Job did not sin by charging God with wrongdoing, but Satan was not satisfied. He returned before the Lord. "Skin for skin," he declared. "A man will give all he has for his own life. Stretch out your hand now and touch his flesh and bones. He will surely curse you to your face." The Lord responded, "Very well, he is in your hands, but spare his life." Soon after, Job was afflicted with painful sores from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. He sat among the ashes, scraping his wounds with a broken shard of pottery. His wife, seeing his suffering, said, "Do you still hold fast to your integrity? Curse God and die." But Job rebuked her. "You speak as a foolish woman speaks. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble?" Word of Job's suffering spread, and 3 of his friends, Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite, came to mourn with him. When they saw him from a distance, they barely recognized him. In silent grief, they sat with him for 7 days, saying nothing. At last, Job spoke. "May the day of my birth perish. Why was I not hidden in the ground like a stillborn child? My sighs pour out like water. For the thing I feared has come upon me. I have no peace, no rest, only turmoil." Eliphaz spoke first. "Job, consider this. Who that was innocent ever perished? Have you not seen that those who plow iniquity reap the same? Affliction does not spring from the dust. Surely there is a reason for your suffering." Job groaned, "Oh, that my anguish were weighed and my misery placed on scales. My pain is unbearable, and my spirit is crushed. Show me my sin, if indeed I have sinned." Bildad answered, "Does God pervert justice? If your children sinned, he gave them over to their sin. But if you are upright, he will restore you." Job shook his head. "How can a mortal be righteous before God? If I were to call on him, how could I answer? He crushes me without cause. If only there were an arbiter between us, someone to lay his hand on both God and me." Zophar, angered, replied, "Should your babbling go unanswered? If only God would speak and declare to you the secrets of wisdom. Know this, he is exacting less than your sin deserves." Job's sorrow deepened. "You are all miserable comforters. If you were in my place, I would speak words of comfort, not rebuke. I cry out to God, but he does not answer. He has stripped me of my honor, cast me into the mire. Yet I know that my Redeemer lives, and in the end he will stand upon the earth. Though my flesh be destroyed, yet in my flesh I shall see God." As the debate continued, a young man named Elihu, who had been listening silently, finally spoke. "Job, do you think yourself more righteous than God? He does not pervert justice. He does not keep the wicked alive, but gives justice to the afflicted. Behold, God is great, and we cannot know him fully. Who can teach like him?" Then from the storm, the voice of the Almighty thundered, "Who is this that darkens my counsel with words without knowledge? Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Tell me, if you understand. Who shut up the sea behind doors when it burst forth? Have you ever commanded the morning? Have you seen the storehouses of the snow? Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades, or loosen Orion's belt?" Job, trembling, replied, "I am unworthy. How can I reply to you?" I put my hand over my mouth. But the Lord continued, "Would you discredit my justice? Will you condemn me to justify yourself? Can you draw out Leviathan with a fishhook? Will he make a covenant with you? No one is fierce enough to rouse him. Who then is able to stand against me?" Overwhelmed, Job fell on his face. "I know that you can do all things, and that no purpose of yours can be thwarted. Surely I spoke of things I did not understand. My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. Therefore I repent in dust and ashes." Then the Lord turned to Eliphaz. "My anger burns against you and your friends, for you have not spoken the truth about me, as my servant Job has. Take 7 bulls and 7 rams, and offer a sacrifice. Job will pray for you, and I will accept his prayer." When Job prayed for his friends, the Lord restored his fortunes. Not only did he return what was lost, but he doubled all that Job had before. His brothers, sisters, and former acquaintances, who had once distanced themselves from his suffering, now came to him. They comforted him, offering gifts of silver and gold, recognizing the greatness of the Lord's mercy. Job's flocks and herds multiplied beyond what they had been. He now possessed 14,000 sheep, 6,000 camels, 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 donkeys. His household flourished once more, and his name was again spoken with honor throughout the land. But the greatest blessing was yet to come. The Lord gave Job 7 more sons and 3 daughters as beautiful and full of life as those he had lost. His daughters were named Jemima, meaning dove, Kezia, named after the fragrant spice, and Karen Hapush, meaning horn of beauty. Nowhere in the land were there women as lovely as Job's daughters, and their father granted them an inheritance alongside their brothers, a rare honor in those days. As Job looked upon his new children, his heart swelled with joy. Yet he did not forget those who had gone before. He did not replace them in his heart, for he knew that though they were lost to him in this life, they were not lost forever. Years passed, and Job lived in peace. He saw his children's children, and even their children, growing before him like the olive trees of his land, strong and full of life. He lived for 140 more years, growing old and full of days. And so, Job died, not in sorrow, but in the fullness of God's blessing, knowing that the hand that had once afflicted him had also lifted him higher than he had ever imagined. The trials that once shook him had only deepened his faith, and through it all he had seen the face of God more clearly than ever before. Though his story had begun with suffering, it ended in restoration, for the Lord is merciful and full of compassion.